Why getting older is God's greatest blessing. Let's be honest. Have you ever looked in the mirror, traced the lines on your face, and thought, where did the time go? Have you ever felt a sharp ache in your knees, struggled to remember a name, and whispered to yourself, I miss the younger me? Society tells you to fight it. Buy the creams, take the pills, erase the years. But deep down, you know the truth. Aging isn't just about a changing body. It's about the silent fears creeping in at night. Are you afraid of becoming invisible? Of feeling less valuable? Does the thought of losing strength, losing purpose, or even losing the people you love weigh on your heart? You are not alone. The world wants you to believe that aging is a battle you must fight. But what if I told you it's not a curse? What if I told you that growing older is God's greatest blessing? Yes, you heard me right. Those silver strands? They are crowns of splendor. That slowing pace? It's God's gentle invitation to wisdom, patience, and peace. The world may glorify youth, but the Bible celebrates age. And in this video, we're going to uncover the truth that society has buried. By the time we finish, your perspective will shift. You'll no longer see aging as a thief stealing your youth, but as a divine gift revealing God's faithfulness. You'll walk away with a renewed heart, filled with joy, gratitude, and purpose. So grab a warm cup of coffee, take a deep breath, and join me. Because today, we're about to shatter the greatest myth of our time, that growing older is something to fear. Let's begin with the first, most powerful truth about aging. One that will change the way you see every wrinkle, every scar, and every gray hair. 1. Aging reflects God's sovereignty and faithfulness. Think about this for a moment. Every line on your face, every silver strand of hair, every scar on your body, it all tells a story. Your story. A story of battles fought, prayers answered, storms survived. A story of a God who never let you go. Do you remember the hardest moments of your life? The times you thought you wouldn't make it? The days when the weight of the world pressed so hard on your shoulders you could barely stand? But you did stand. You did make it through. And do you know why? Because God carried you. Isaiah 46 verse 4 holds a promise straight from the mouth of God. Even to your old age and gray hairs, I am He. I am He who will sustain you. I have made you, and I will carry you. I will sustain you, and I will rescue you. Read those words again, slowly. Let them sink in. I will sustain you. I will carry you. I will rescue you. Not just when you were young, not just when you were strong, not just when the world celebrated you, but now, even now, especially now. The world sees aging as a slow decline, a fading into the background. But God sees it as a testimony, a living, breathing testament to His faithfulness. Your wrinkles? They are not signs of loss. They are markers of a life held by God's hands. Your gray hairs? They are not a reason for shame. They are crowns of wisdom, earned through years of walking with the Lord. Proverbs 16 verse 31 declares, gray hair is a crown of splendor. It is attained in the way of righteousness. A crown, splendor, honor. Can you imagine if the world saw aging the way God does? Instead of running from it, people would embrace it. Instead of hiding it, they would wear it with joy. Instead of dreading it, they would celebrate it. But I know what you might be thinking. That sounds beautiful, but it doesn't always feel that way. And you're right. Aging isn't always easy. There are challenges, aches and pains, losses and grief. There are days when you wake up and feel the weight of time pressing down on you. But here's the incredible thing. God uses every part of your journey, even the hard parts, for His glory. Think about Abraham and Sarah. By all human logic, they were too old. Their time had passed. They had no future, no hope. But God had a different plan. At 100 years old, Abraham became the father of Isaac, the child of promise. And in that moment, every wrinkle on his face, every gray hair on Sarah's head stood as undeniable proof that God's timing is perfect. God's plan for you does not expire with age. He is still working in you, still writing your story, still unfolding His purpose for your life. So, the next time you see your reflection and notice the passing years, don't see it as a loss. See it as a gain of wisdom, of testimony, of evidence that God has never failed you. You are not growing weaker. You are growing in faith. You are not becoming irrelevant. You are stepping into a season of divine purpose. Because in God's kingdom, value is not measured by youth or strength. It is measured by faithfulness. And my friend, your faithfulness has never been more powerful than it is today. Number 2, wisdom comes with age. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at a younger person making mistakes you know will cost them, and thought, if only they knew what I know now? Have you ever wanted to reach back in time to your younger self and whisper, slow down? Trust God. Don't waste time on things that don't matter. If you have, then let me tell you something powerful. That wisdom, that deep, hard-earned understanding of life, is one of God's greatest gifts. And it is a gift that only time can give. But let's be real. The world doesn't celebrate wisdom. It celebrates speed, ambition, youth. It tells you that experience doesn't matter, that the past is irrelevant, that the voices of the aged should be quiet. But do you know what the Bible says? Is not wisdom found among the aged? Does not long life bring understanding? Job 12, verse 12. Read that again, slowly. Wisdom isn't something you're born with. It's something you gain. It's something you earn through tears, through trials, through years of walking with God. Think about King Solomon, one of the wisest men in history. When he was young, he asked God for wisdom, and God gave it to him. So much that rulers traveled from across the world just to hear his words. But do you know what's fascinating? His later writings, like Ecclesiastes, reflect a wisdom that could only come with age. A deeper, more reflective understanding of what truly matters. Solomon wrote in Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens." He didn't write those words as a young man chasing wealth and power. He wrote them as an older man who had lived, a man who had seen the rise and fall of kingdoms, a man who had tasted success and seen its emptiness, a man who understood that only the things of God last. And my friend, the same is true for you. You have walked through life storms. You have faced losses. You have learned that money comes and goes, that friendships change, that health is never guaranteed. You have seen the faithfulness of God in ways the younger generation cannot yet understand. And that wisdom, it is not meant to be hidden. Titus 2 verses 3 to 5 gives a clear instruction. Those who are older must teach those who are younger. Your life, your story, your experiences, they are not just for you. They are a gift to the next generation. The world may say your best years are behind you, but God says now is the time to lead. Now is the time to teach. Now is the time to pass on what you know. So don't hold back. Share your wisdom. Speak truth. Guide those who are still finding their way. Because your voice, your life, still matters. And God isn't done using you yet. Number 3, aging brings clarity and perspective. What if I told you that everything you once chased, everything you thought mattered, was just smoke in the wind? For years, you worked, sacrificed, built a life. You ran after success, security, approval. You told yourself, one day, I'll finally have enough. One day, I'll be satisfied. But now, as you look back, does it ever feel like you spent too much time chasing the wrong things? If you've ever felt that way, you're not alone. And let me tell you something, that feeling is a gift. Because the older you get, the clearer life becomes. You begin to see through the lies the world told you. You realize that money can't buy peace, that approval from others is fleeting, that success doesn't fill the empty places in your heart. The things you once thought were so important, they start to fade, and in their place, something deeper takes root. Wisdom, faith, and an unshakable understanding of what truly matters. Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, learned this lesson the hard way. He had everything, wealth, power, knowledge. But in the end, he wrote these sobering words in Ecclesiastes 1 verse 2. Meaningless, Everything is meaningless. He wasn't saying that life itself has no value. He was warning us, without God, nothing truly satisfies. Paul, too, came to the same conclusion. He had been a man of high status, respected and powerful. But in Philippians 3 verses 7 to 8, he declared, "Whatever were gains to me, I now consider loss for the sake of Christ." Do you hear that? The things he once fought for, the things he thought made him somebody, became nothing in the light of eternity. And my friend, you've probably felt that shift too. Maybe you spent years working tirelessly, trying to build a secure future, only to realize that time with loved ones was the real treasure. Maybe you chased recognition, only to discover that the quiet moments with God mattered more than applause. Maybe you fought for things that, in the end, didn't bring the joy you thought they would. But that realization, that moment when everything becomes clear, is a gift from God. Jesus warned us in Matthew 6 verses 19 to 21. "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Aging brings perspective. It strips away the distractions, the illusions, the temporary things. It forces us to ask, what really lasts? What truly matters? And here's the answer: God, faith, love, legacy. That's why aging isn't something to mourn. It's something to embrace. It's a chance to refocus, to rebuild, to let go of the meaningless and hold on to the eternal. So don't look at the years behind you with regret. Look at them with gratitude, because now you see what truly matters. And that, my friend, is one of the greatest blessings of all. Number 4, the gift of influence and legacy. What will people remember about you when you're gone? Not your bank account, not the size of your house, not the titles you held or the possessions you collected. They will remember the way you made them feel, the wisdom you shared, the faith you lived out. And that, my friend, is your legacy. Whether you realize it or not, you are leaving a mark on this world. Every word you speak, every choice you make, every lesson you teach, it all becomes part of the story you leave behind. And here's the truth. Aging gives you the greatest opportunity to shape that legacy. The world tells you that influence fades with age, that your best years are behind you, that younger generations have taken the stage and you should step aside. But that's a lie. In God's kingdom, the older you get, the greater your impact can be. Psalm 78 verse 4 declares, "We will not hide them from their descendants. We will tell the next generation the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, His power, and the wonders He has done." This isn't a suggestion. It's a calling. Think about the people in your life, your children, your grandchildren, your friends, your church community. They need your wisdom. They need your stories of how God has been faithful. They need to hear how you made it through life's hardest moments, how you clung to faith when everything felt like it was falling apart. Because one day, they will face their own battles. They will walk through storms. And in those moments, the lessons you left behind could be the very thing that gives them strength. Paul understood this. That's why, near the end of his life, he wrote to Timothy, his spiritual son. In 2 Timothy 4 verse 7, he said, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith." Those words carried weight because they came from a man who had lived them, a man who had suffered, endured, and remained faithful. His legacy was not in wealth or status. It was in the faith he passed down. And the same is true for you. Your greatest impact isn't in what you achieve, but in what you invest in others. Every time you encourage someone, every time you pray for a loved one, every time you share a lesson God has taught you, you are building a legacy that will outlive you. And here's the best part. Your legacy doesn't end when your life on earth does. The seeds of faith, wisdom, and love that you plant will continue to grow, shaping lives for generations to come. So don't believe the lie that your influence is fading. Don't let the world convince you that your voice no longer matters. Because the truth is, it matters more than ever. Embrace this season. Speak life into those around you. Share your testimony. Leave a legacy of faith that will echo for generations. Because one day, when people remember you, let them say, they walked with God. They never wavered. And because of them, my faith is stronger today. Number 5, physical weakness, spiritual strength. What happens when the body starts to fail? The world tells you it's the beginning of the end. That weakness is something to fear. That slowing down means fading away. That your best days are behind you. But what if I told you your greatest strength is being revealed? Yes, your body changes. The energy you once had may not be the same. The mirror may show signs of times passing. But while the world sees weakness, God sees something else. Because here's the truth. Your physical strength may decrease, but your spiritual strength is only getting stronger. The Apostle Paul understood this better than anyone. He suffered. He faced beatings, imprisonment, hunger. His body bore the scars of a hard-fought life. And yet, listen to what he said in 2 Corinthians 12 verses 9 to 10. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Read that again. My power is made perfect in weakness. Paul goes even further. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Do you see it? Weakness isn't a curse. It's an invitation to lean fully on God, an invitation to experience His power in ways you never could when you relied on your own strength. Think about Moses. By the time God called him to lead Israel, he was 80 years old. He wasn't a strong, young warrior. He was an old man, weary, uncertain. And yet, God chose him, not in spite of his age, but because of it. Through Moses' weakness, God's power was displayed. And that same power is at work in you. Have you noticed how, as your body slows down, your heart is drawn closer to God? How the things that once distracted you now seem insignificant? How prayer feels deeper, worship feels richer, and God's presence feels nearer. That is not an accident. Isaiah 40 verse 31 gives us this promise. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. This is not about physical strength. This is about spiritual strength. The kind of strength that doesn't fade with age, it grows. The kind that carries you through pain, through loss, through the hardest seasons of life. So the next time your body aches, the next time you feel tired, remember this. You are not growing weaker. You are growing stronger in the Lord. Your spirit is being renewed. Your faith is deepening. And God's power is shining through you in ways it never could when you were strong on your own. Because in God's kingdom, strength is not measured by muscles or energy. It is measured by faith. And my friend, your faith has never been stronger than it is today. Number 6, the joy of eternal perspective. What if everything you see around you is just the beginning? The years pass. Loved ones go home to the Lord. The things you once held tightly, your career, your possessions, even your own strength, begin to slip through your fingers. And you ask yourself, where does this all lead? What comes next? The world tells you that aging is about losing time, losing opportunities, losing the life you once knew. But God whispers something different. He says, lift your eyes, look beyond what is temporary, see what is eternal. Because, my friend, you are not moving toward the end. You are moving toward the beginning. Paul understood this truth in a way few people do. Sitting in prison, knowing his time on earth was short, he didn't fear. He didn't despair. Instead, he wrote these powerful words in Philippians 1 verse 21. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. Think about that. To die is gain. Not loss. Not the end, but gain. Because for those who walk with Christ, death is not something to dread. It is the doorway to something greater than we can even imagine. In 2 Corinthians 4 verses 16 to 18, Paul gives us this promise. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Do you see it? The body may grow older, but the soul grows stronger. The world may tell you that time is slipping away, but in reality, you are stepping closer to eternity. And what an eternity it will be. The Apostle John, exiled in his old age on the island of Patmos, was given a vision of the future. And what he saw was breathtaking. In Revelation 21 verse 4, he describes what awaits those who belong to Christ. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain. For the old order of things has passed away. Can you imagine it? A world where sorrow does not exist. A place where there is no sickness, no aching joints, no sleepless nights filled with worry. A life where every tear is wiped away by the hands of the one who created you. Aging gives us the gift of perspective. It teaches us to let go of the things that don't last, to hold tightly to what truly matters, to shift our focus from earthly concerns to heavenly promises. So when you feel the weight of time pressing down, when you wonder what lies ahead, remember this. You are not growing older. You are growing closer, closer to your true home, closer to the presence of God, closer to the day when every sorrow will be turned into everlasting joy. And that, my friend, is not something to fear. It is something to celebrate. The world says joy comes from success, from youth, from having more money, more health, more time. But what happens when those things fade? What happens when the years pass, the body slows, and the world tells you that your best days are behind you? Do you feel forgotten? Overlooked? Do you ever wonder, what do I have left to give? Let me tell you something the world won't. Your joy is not found in what you have lost. Your joy is found in the God who never changes. And that, my friend, is why gratitude is everything. Paul, sitting in a prison cell, stripped of freedom, comfort, and security, wrote these powerful words in 1 Thessalonians 5 verses 16 to 18. Rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. Not some circumstances, not only when life is easy, in all circumstances. Because gratitude isn't about pretending life is perfect. It's about seeing God's hand even in the hard moments. It's about shifting your focus away from what is missing and onto what is still overflowing in your life. You woke up this morning. That's a gift. You have breath in your lungs. That's a reason to praise. You have memories, laughter, love. You have God, who has never left you, never failed you, and never will. Psalm 92 verses 12 to 14 gives us this promise. The righteous will flourish like a palm tree. They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green. Did you catch that? They will still bear fruit in old age. The world tells you that aging means slowing down, fading out. But God says no. He says you can still flourish, still make an impact, still live with purpose. But here's the key. Joy and gratitude go hand in hand. The more you thank God, the more your heart fills with joy. The more you focus on His blessings, the lighter your burdens feel. Because when you fix your eyes on what is eternal, everything else fades into the background. Nehemiah 8 verse 10 reminds us, the joy of the Lord is your strength. Not the joy of money, not the joy of youth, the joy of the Lord. So, my friend, take a deep breath. Look around. See the blessings that are still overflowing in your life. And when the world tries to tell you that aging is something to mourn, lift your head and say, no, this is a gift. Because every wrinkle, every gray hair, every year is another testimony of God's goodness. And that is something worth celebrating. So, tell me, are you still afraid of growing old? The wrinkles, the gray hair, the slower steps, do they feel like a loss? Or do you see them for what they truly are? A gift, a divine testimony of a life held in God's hands. The world may try to convince you that aging is something to fear. that time is stealing your worth, that your best moments are gone. But listen to me, that is a lie, because in God's eyes, you are not fading. You are rising. Rising into wisdom, rising into deeper faith, rising into the greatest season of your life, where His presence is stronger, His purpose clearer, and His love more real than ever before. Isaiah 46 verse 4 says, "Even to your old age and gray hairs, I am He. I am He who will sustain you. I have made you, and I will carry you. I will sustain you, and I will rescue you." Did you hear that? God Himself will carry you. So why fear? Why resist the years that God has ordained for you? Every breath you take is still filled with purpose. Every day you wake up is another opportunity to glorify Him. Every moment you live is another chance to prepare for the eternity that awaits. Because, my friend, this world is not the end. One day, you will stand before the Lord. One day, all pain, all sorrow, all suffering will be gone. One day, you will hear the words every faithful servant longs to hear. "Well done, my good and faithful servant." And on that day, every struggle will make sense. Every tear will be wiped away. Every sacrifice, every moment of faith, every prayer will be worth it. So I ask you now, are you ready? Are you ready to embrace why getting older is God's greatest blessing? Are you ready to see aging for what it truly is, a journey toward your eternal home? If your heart is longing for God, if you feel His presence calling you closer, do not ignore it. Leave a comment below. Share your prayer with the Lord. Let your words be lifted up to heaven. Let your faith be known, whether it is a prayer of gratitude, a prayer for strength, or a prayer of surrender. Write it down. Because when you pray, God listens. When you seek Him, He answers. And if you are unsure, if you are still searching, still wondering, still longing for peace, let this be your moment. The moment where you turn to the One who has never left you. Say it with me now. Lord, I trust You. I surrender my fears, my doubts, my worries. I thank You for the years You have given me. I embrace every season of my life as a gift from You. And I place my future, my eternity, in Your hands. Now, let Your voice be heard. Comment your prayer below. Let heaven see your faith. Because, my friend, the best is yet to come.